All right. Well, hello, everyone. It is Dr. Siobhan here with the Made Marriage Show. This is where I get to interview amazing, incredible real wives just like you about how they make marriage work, because we all know that great marriages don't just happen, that they are intentionally made. And a lot of that starts with our thinking, our mindset, our attitudes, our behaviors. All of that leads to the results and the experiences that we have in our relationships, in our marriages. And so I encourage you, as you watch this broadcast, to consider the question, how are you thinking about your marriage today? And how is that thinking contributing to the results that you are seeing right now? So that's food for thought. In the meantime, I am so excited for our guest today. I'm going to let her do all of the introductions and tell you all about herself, and also for her to answer our question, which is, how do you make marriage work? So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hey, thanks, Siobhan. I'm so thrilled to be here. I haven't done a live broadcast in a while, so this is really fun. And the topic, of course, is fun. I enjoy talking to you. So hello, everyone. My name is Kwanzaa King, and I am a certified professional coach, and I focus in on coaching women and all of their potential. So that's what I do in my full-time gig. I'm also the founder and creator of an empowerment brand for women called Live Life on Purpose Today. Here's the shirt. And that's all about really living life intentionally every day. And there's a story behind that. If we have time, I can get into that. And this is what I do. I'm a wife, I'm a mom, I'm an entrepreneur, very passionate about my call as an entrepreneur. I love the Lord. He is the reason why I have a purpose. So I'm thrilled to be here and talk about the most important relationship that I have is my marriage and relationships in general. I just love relationships. And Siobhan, I know you can attest to this. We just love people, love seeing how one another engage. And so why not through marriage? That's what we're going to talk about today.
Fantastic. Well, I love the whole live life on purpose. I almost feel like I need to come up with a be a wife on purpose type of, saying, because it really is all about that intentionality. So tell us, Kwanzaa, how do you make your marriage the ingredients that are necessary to really make a marriage work?
So it's interesting because I was thinking about this question. I said, I know she's going to ask me, and it's like work. When I think about the word work, it's already a kind of like we think of work, it can be like drudgery or just like, I got to work. And I was thinking about how can I kind of reframe that, because it does take reframing of the mind when you are married. In fact, there may be a whole lot of reframing on a daily, depending upon
minute
by minute, right? That renewing of the mind. So how do I make my marriage work? Well, the truth is, I really don't know how to make it work. It is a day to day. I don't have like a blueprint. It is literally a day by day, almost moment by moment, work in progress, to be quite honest. Some days that works really well, other days not so well. But at the end, what I'm learning is I'm learning myself, I'm learning my husband, and we've been in this for a while. I know I'm not supposed to tell him to the end how long we've been married. So, but we've been in this for a while. So if I could, I'd like to share some things that I've just kind of learned along the way that I think have really just been helpful for me as I reflect. So the number one thing I want to share is that your marriage, your relationship is like a foundation. It is a foundation. You and your husband come together, you create that solid building block. And that's literally what I see. what happens over time is that foundations can tend to get cracks in them. Sometimes those cracks are hairline cracks, or sometimes they're really hard blows to the foundation. But no matter what the size, be it a hairline or a complete fracture, you really need to spend some time making sure you mend those breaks in the foundation. Just like if you had a house and you built the foundation, it was shifting, or you had cracks in that, you would get it repaired because you understand that this is what keeps your house up and stable. It's the same thing in your relationship. So one of the things I often like to reflect on is the time that my husband and I were newly married. And sometimes I really like to go back to that because it was so fresh and you're just not jaded. Everything for me was just he and I against the world, right? But then life happens. And I like to go back there and think, like, what was it like that first 6 months, right? That first year where, sometimes we just shut the world out. Right? It was just about he and I. It wasn't about, we didn't have children at the time. The family knew to kind of leave us alone because we were newlyweds. And I really think you have to take that time back and give yourself permission to take that time back, even now, no matter how many years you've been married. Go back to those beginning days or years, if you will, and really reflect on what made us come together. What kept us together? What did we laugh at? Can you still look at your spouse and dote on him? Can you, whisper little things? I didn't even have time to whisper into my husband's ear, honestly. We just got so much going on. But you know what I mean? Like going back and thinking about what was the spark? What brought you together? Because you can lose that along the way if you're not practicing it and really being intentional and purposeful about it. So I would say, kind of in a nutshell, like that's one of the ways that I have been working on making my marriage work.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I love it. My husband and I actually had a similar conversation just this past weekend where it's sort of like, what do we do? Many of the people who follow me know I have a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, and it's like, what were the things we did before we had kids?
Right?
You can't even remember. But I think taking that trip back down memory lane to not only remember the things you did together, but what you loved about each other, right? Because there was something so amazing about this man that drew you to him, and likewise something so amazing about you that drew him to you.
Sure.
And over time, disappointments, real life, all that stuff sets in. Yeah. And it's so easy to forget, like, what you loved, or those things you loved now become a liability. And right. So how do you reframe it? I love that point that you mentioned. It's a lot of reframing on a day-by-day, moment-by-moment basis. And we have to keep that in mind and not just let our mind go this way and that way, but really direct our thoughts, our perceptions of each other, and how we communicate. So that was fantastic for not having a script or,
Yeah, it's so intentional when you think about it. It's really intentional. I feel sometimes like, sometimes if I'm not, things are being stolen sometimes in my relationship. Things like our distractions are coming in and taking our eyes off of one another. And that's very real. There's always something drawing or vying for our attention, be it, responsibilities or, TV, all the extracurricular things. And it really takes a discipline to say, no, I have to shut that out. Let's cut that off. Let's cut the TV off tonight and let's just look at each other. Right. Mm-hmm. Let's just, and see how long you can do that for. Right. So it's real intentional.
Yes. Very, very good. So tell us a little bit about your love story, like how you and your husband met and like what, brought you guys together.
Well, I know I can be very honest here. And it's so funny because my husband knows I'm doing this. And he said to me, did I do everything right today to make your interview go well? And I was like, oh, you're so cute. We ain't got enough time, baby. But no. One of the things so our love story. So my husband says that he knew at 13 that he was going to, I was going to be his girl. And at 13, I just really was not interested in. We knew each other from church. He was attending more regularly than I was. He was involved in youth group and all of that. And he would ask me to youth group and I'd just be like, it's too corny. Like, I even thought he was corny. Just like not my style, not my type. And then as life went on, grew up, got older, I think around just a change of heart. I mean, it was probably before I entered into college. We worked at a summer, actually it was the summer of our sophomore year going into college. We worked at a community service in the same area. And he was just always kind of popping up and I would see him around. And I had some girlfriends who were like a little older than I was. And I thought they were really hip and everything. And I really wanted to be more like them. And one of the girls said to me, she's like, I know you're chasing this guy. You think this guy is cute. She's like, but Alan's the one who's going to put a ring on your finger. Mm. And it just kind of stuck with me. I wasn't really thinking about marriage. And then it was one fateful summer afternoon, I had decided that I was going to approach this gentleman that I thought was just so cute and ask him to give me a ride home. And so as I'm walking out of the community center where we were working, I'm walking with this guy and I'm talking to him. And just out the corner of my eye, I see my husband, who at the time was my friend, standing there as if he was waiting for me to get out of work. Now, we hadn't planned this or anything. So right in that moment, I was like faced with a decision. Do I go with this guy who's like, kind of like the bad guy, or do I go in with the direction of my friend? And in that moment, I feel like God just softened my heart and said, you need to go and see what your friend wants. So I left the guy and went over to Alan, who's my husband now. And the rest is really history. He asked me out on a date that night and we started hanging out and we began dating, and we dated all through college. And then after college, we got married. So,
wow.
Yeah.
I'm getting chills because it's so funny. You probably didn't see our episode last week, but the woman there, Jamaica, was saying similarly how her husband had pursued her. She wasn't really feeling him. And I think she had had surgery or something, and he prayed for her. And it was just like this light bulb went off. And I have a similar experience where, I met my husband. I'm like, yeah, he's a nice guy, but, my mind is like not really there. And then, it takes some whisper from God or some sign to just show you like, no, this is what I have for you. And I love the sort of declaration of your friend who was like, no, this is the guy that's going to put a ring on it. And if there are any single women that are out there watching, I really think, so many times we have to be aware of our patterns in our choice of partners and how box what God has already set aside for us. And so, I think with all of that, it's one of those things that as we journey on this marriage roller coaster and we realize like, this was not my choice per se, but this was the choice that God had for me, that if we can just remember that when we do face some of those valleys and those rough patches and those, barriers in the road, that somehow our minds can be opened again to seeing our husbands differently.
Oh, yeah.
So I just felt that with what you said. So that was great. I didn't even, I love asking that story because a lot of times I don't know the answer. So I'm like listening myself all excited.
Yeah. And I just want to say one thing too, like you said, that was like a lot of things. So I'll just say this, like I totally was into like, you talked about single women who may be watching. I was totally into like the naughty guy. I was just that guy. Yeah. And for the men who may watch this, if you are single, prayer creates intimacy. Mm-hmm. If you are praying for your girlfriend and she hears that, it's almost like a done deal. It's just something about a man praying for a woman. It opens up such a level of compassion and intimacy that I think that's the way God designed it, because our prayer life with God is meant to be intimate. So imagine if your spouse, who's not your spouse yet, but if he's praying for you while you're dating, especially when you're in a low point or at any point, it just creates something very wonderful that you just don't forget. So yeah, the prayer. So guys pray, girls listen to the voice of the Lord. So
yeah. I mean, even now, right? Even in the marriage,
yes,
it's incredibly powerful. I think a practice that I always suggest to couples is to have a prayer ritual where you pray out loud together and for each other. It's incredible because I feel like the Holy Spirit that have your heart open, which, you know, a lot of times you can create that connection and intimacy that you can't on your own when you're just trying to have a regular conversation.
Oh yeah. And there's just something about hearing your partner say your voice, say your name in a prayer, and to hear what he's praying for you. Very, you know, it's definitely
that heart-to-heart connection.
Yes.
Okay, so tell us, when you think about marriage and you think about the journey that you and your husband have been on, I know you've mentioned you've been together for a while. What has surprised you the most about marriage?
What has surprised me most about marriage? I think for me personally, I still believe that I can be amazing. It doesn't matter kind of what we've been through. I still hold on. I guess I'm like that. I still have childlike faith in that regard, that it can still be everything I've ever dreamed of. And I'm still dreaming in my marriage. I still have hope in my marriage with my spouse. And that I think that really keeps me. I think that what surprises me sometimes when I hear about other people's marriages, when it's like, you don't really hear the hope part, right? Even if I don't express it, I still in my heart, it's like, it's enough. Like, I feel like it's just enough that God can work with that and keep me, you know, in those rough patches. So I think that's what has surprised me. And I thank God for that, because I know that I can be dead to it. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I think that's what surprises me. It's like, I still have desire and hope that this can be like amazing. It's not amazing yet, but we can still work to that, and that we can. So I think that, for me, is surprising. I think also too that it's like, you know, to be committed to one person for so long. I mean, I don't know. It's just really, I know people have, you know, 50 years or 40 years. I think as I journey in my marriage, I'm like, wow, I now kind of understand what that takes, what it must be like. Every vow, I believe, will be tested. For rich or for poor, for better, for worse, in sickness and in health. In some way, those vows are tested. Sometimes that scares me, but at the same time, I know it's part of the journey. So lots of surprises in that way. Just kind of ahas. I think any surprises about my spouse, I don't know. I'm still learning him. I still think he's learning himself, just like I am. Gosh, I have a lot of things going on, so I don't want to rattle. But I feel like one of the things that surprised me that I heard myself say was, you know, I'm not the same girl you married at this age that I am now. And I think it's really important that we each other understand you're not the same person you were. And so to evolve with one another and really look at who we are today. I'm just going to put like a little bookmark there, because I'll talk more about that a little later.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I answered the question. I had a lot of stuff, but...
You had a lot of stuff. It's still valuable.
Yes.
I'm so into this conversation. I'm not even paying attention to the comments. Hello, Francis. I hope you're still here.
Hello,
Thank you for saying hello. I'm so sorry. I'm like all in this conversation. So this is just a little extension of what you were just talking about a little bit. You know, how do you feel like you've grown to be a better person as a result of being married to your husband? And this is, you know, I think so often, you know, when we're dating, we find all the things that we have in common. Yet once we get married and we're really into it, it's like, wait a minute, we have all these things that are different. And I think for sure that's by design. And so as you think about, you know, maybe the areas that are strengths for you, but maybe areas of weakness for your husband, or vice versa, you know, as you look at how you have evolved, how you're not that same girl that you married, you know, out of college, how do you feel like you've grown as a result of being married to him specifically?
Yeah. Oh gosh. You know, as of late, I find that my husband is really good with logistics and methods. So I've learned that over the years. I've learned to rely on him a lot, probably more than I should. It's like, what's the direction here, or how do I get here? Like, because I've learned to depend on him. And so I think in some ways, when I was younger, I was really that independent girl. But that's also kind of like a little single-minded too, right? So, not really surrendering to his leadership in some ways. But now I think I've kind of overused it because I need to kind of get back. But I really find now this balance of, playing to his strengths, right? What is it that he does well, and allowing him to lead in that way, right? And then in the things that he says he knows that I'm strong in, actually living up to that. Because I know sometimes I can be like, well, I know you'll do it. Or if if it falls through the cracks, or if I, miss the mark, you'll be there. But no, he's looking for me to walk in my strengths also. So that really kind of, I think you go through different cycles, starting out, you don't have the kids. I know when I had children, I became very focused on the children, which is another story. And then I'm really kind of coming back into finding myself now that my children are older, finding out what I want to do. And so I think I have evolved in a sense from becoming this really independent kind of, ambitious woman, but also realizing I have a partner and everything isn't going to be the way I wanted. Like, that's really hard. Yes. Right? Like, I like the toothpaste to be, and I hate using that example because marriage is so much more than like who left the cap off the toothpaste or the toilet seat up. Like, I hate those examples they use in like the premarital classes. It's like, come on, give me something with a lot more meat, because it is out there in your marriage. But yeah, just learning that he has certain things don't matter to him, and that's okay. That's who he is. Just like certain things don't matter or bother me. But I think early on, I was just a little more independent, really aware of all the differences. Now you just kind of like, what works for us, right? Mm-hmm. What works for you, what works for me, and what works for us together, and just being a little more relaxed.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
What would you say, Kwanzi? I know we have a range of people that are watching us live, other people that may watch this on a replay. Someone is at a moment of major decision, right? They're considering maybe separating, they're considering divorce. What advice or wisdom might you offer to someone who may be watching this and is in that space right now?
Yeah, so that is one of the challenges that you can actually, experience in your relationship. And I'll just speak from my own personal experience. At the beginning of the broadcast, I talked about how important relationships are to me in general. Marriage being, because I'm in this, the most important relationship. And when that is off, I feel like everything else around me is off. Yeah. It's like, we're not vibing, or we're just kind of going through the motions. And that can be, if you really love relationships, that can throw everything off. I don't care who you are. It throws me off. And you have those times where life happens. Life happens to your spouse just like it happens to you. I think a lot of times we are walking in our own steps and everything, and we see from our perspective, but also understanding that your spouse may be going through things and life is happening for him also, and he's changing too, just like you are, or going through some changes. And so when it comes to like the separation and really thinking about that, I've been very close to that myself. So if any of my friends watch this is not news to them. I've always been very open about that. What really helped me is just that little bit of faith. You gotta have a little bit of something so God can work with that.
Yeah.
Gotta be a little bit of something. I don't care. When you say the size of a mustard seed, trust me when I say he can work with that. And I find that being able to talk to God about it as often as I need to, and pray for him to send people who will give you wise counsel. It is a very challenging place to be in when you are thinking about walking away or separating from your spouse. It's painful. You may feel like there could be some shame there. There could be condemnation. You could feel isolated. You could feel like nobody understands you or knows what you're going through. But trust me, there are other women who have experienced this. I talk to women, they're like, yeah, I've been there. Yeah. So you're never alone. In that respect, I just think it's a great time to, number one, seek God's face as often as you need to and be honest. I don't have to sugarcoat anything when I go to prayer and God about my marriage. I tell him exactly what I would desire in it and why it's not working, whatever it is, Lord, help me. And then I do seek the counsel of women I trust, who I know, support marriage in general. No matter where they are in their own marriage, be it married or divorced or separated, and then just really try to work on me a little more. Because at times when you're in that place, it's easy to focus on the other person or even, deem them as the enemy or
Yes.
Yeah, it's very easy to do that, right? But really trying to focus on yourself a little more. How can I work on changing me? Like, Lord, show me what I need to work on. And God, I'm going to duck out of the way so you can take care of my spouse. And all of that, of course, I'm saying this. I hope I'm not saying it so easily because it's not easy. Sometimes you may look up 9 months later and say, oh my goodness, I'm still here. I don't even know how I moved from wanting to leave my spouse to still being here and enjoying him again. So everyone has a different process. I guess what I would say to the woman who may be watching this now or later is to be encouraged with just that little bit. I mean, like the size of a mustard seed as really what God can still work with. And you having an open mind to that, and doing your part, not doing what he should be like, telling him what he should be doing, but really looking at what can I do to make me better.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with that more. I don't have
I know that was a lot, but I hope.
No, because it's just on point, like on point. Every sentence of it on point. I don't even have to like summarize it or re-emphasize it. It's just, it is the truth. It is the truth.
Hard truth sometimes, but nonetheless.
Yeah. Yes, it is a hard truth sometimes. Yeah. Let me ask you this, Kwanzaa, and I'm like looking at the time. I'm like, where has the time gone? I feel like we just started.
I know when you said 30 minutes, I was like, okay, I'm going to really try to be disciplined.
No, I mean, these things go over.
Yes.
But let me ask you this, right? So I find that there's certain experiences in life that you really don't know what they're like until you're in it, right? And so when you think about marriage, and you think about like just what is the real deal of it all, what are some of the things you feel like nobody really tells you before you get into it, that you have to just sort of like learn on your own?
Yeah, so like earlier I was bringing up like the toothpaste cap and the toilet seat and, arguing over what color you want, like the hand towels to be in the bathroom. Like that's kind of like the surface stuff. But I think when you really look at those vows, in sickness and in health, right? I think it's, for richer, for poorer. I mean, that's a very real statement, like in the physical sense, like your bank account, but also for richer, for poorer in spirit. Right? Yeah. There are just some times where, your spouse may go through a place of depression and just be poor in spirit and really can't, partner with you in a way that you may have been used to. Like life is happening. But people don't know this until you actually go through it. I don't know why they haven't updated the premarital class manual yet.
Yeah. I know, like whoever they are. Right?
Who they are, but
the universal they.
What's the new addition here? Or rearing your children. You may start out with having similar philosophies, but as the kids get older, you start seeing their personality and, all of that plays into this thing called marriage. I think I hear a lot about, being able to separate yourself from it and go on those vacations. But what if you don't have the money to do that? Like, what else can you do? So I really find like you have to be creative. You have to prioritize. You have to make one another the priority. I don't think you really can actually create. I mean, you can tell people, kind of give suggestions, but it really is what works for you and your spouse. And that is the experience part of marriage. But there's so much thrown in there. I mean, down to, are you going to get in shape so we don't have to take insulin when we're old? I mean, like all kinds of stuff. I mean, it's just, you don't think about that when you're younger because you just don't. But as you're getting older, like my husband and I now, like he did the Running Man at a party and he still can't walk right. Like, and I'm just like, I told you, do not bust out the Running Man. And he was doing it like he was in college. I'm like, dude, you can't. And so now he has to ice his knee. He's around the house. He's been limping for 2 weeks. But all of that plays into you're getting older. And so these things you don't know, people can tell you, but when you experience them, So, hi, Anita. So, yeah. So a lot of stuff, but nothing that you can't overcome, right? You can't overcome with a heart of gratitude and grace for one another and grace for yourself. I think as women want to have grace on ourselves and not be hard on ourselves and hard on our spouse and laugh and live. So.
Yeah, absolutely. That was fantastic. So let's do the reveal, right? So for those who have been watching, this very wise Miss Kwanzaa.
Oh my God.
We're just going to ask the question to the audience first. So This is a part of the show where, at the beginning, she didn't say how long she's been married. So I just want, for those of you watching live now, just type in the comments how long you think Miss Kwanzaa King has been married, and then she's going to reveal it to us. So I know there's a slight delay. So while you guys are putting your comments and guessing, I want to see everyone guessing how long you think she's been married, just for fun. In the meantime, while those are popping up, I'll just ask Kwanzaa, what are some rituals? What are some rituals that you and your husband do? I mean, I know you mentioned that sometimes you have to be creative. Like, what do you do when you really need to get away and you can't even afford it? What are some of the things and the healthy practices that you feel you guys have been able to put into place?
Oh my gosh, this is going to be so bad. Okay, so I'll tell you so how do I want to answer this first? So I want to tell you what I'm hoping for. Yeah, but what we currently do. Okay, so we do movies. We enjoy like Marvel, DC movies. Like that's my thing. I think it's also his thing too, or sometimes he just loves me enough to go along with me. But I think we have that in common. So whenever a Marvel, DC comic movie comes out, we want to go on opening night. And that's kind of like our thrill, right? Some of the things I'd love for us, and what I said before, hopeful, is like a tango class, like dancing, walking like every day together. I think that is so romantic. It's low cost and you can certainly get your steps in together. Like that's something I want us to really pick up together. I learned to swim because my husband is a fish, but now that I know how to swim, he hasn't gotten in the pool yet. So that's something else I'm working towards. So just being active together and trying different things and actually creating like a habit of them so that when our children are gone, we're not like, okay, let's try, we'll have something.
Like, who are you? Yeah.
Yeah. Like we'll have something already established. We're working up to some things like camping and hiking. And he also said he would like to travel and visit all the states. And I'm open to that. You know what I mean? So just adventure. I think
a shared adventure. That's what it sounds like.
But currently we're just like movies, in the den, watching the news right now. I mean, we kind of do that. And I think he's been very supportive of me in this business as an entrepreneur. So that has been a blessing also.
Fantastic. So I'm looking at your friend Anita must be watching. She didn't guess. Thank you, Anita, for not giving it away. Thank you for being honest. Yeah. We have 14 years, 11 years, So people are thinking you're a veteran in this game, Miss Kwanzaa. So tell us, how long have you been making your marriage work?
So in August of this year, it will be 19 years.
Woo! That is fantastic.
Yeah.
That is fantastic.
19 years. We got married when we were 12.
Of course. Of course. Of course. There's someone with 5. Oh, Kenesha, no, it's 19. 19.
Oh, thank you.
5 is good. I like 5, you know. It's because she looks so young, right? Right? She looks like 19 years of marriage.
Yeah. And
so, Kwanzaa, why don't you share any like parting words of advice, a quote, scripture, like any last thing you want to leave our audience with tonight?
Oh gosh, I think the keep hope in your marriage. I think sometimes I feel like there are secret things in my heart that I desire for my marriage with my husband that he doesn't even know, because sometimes even when I try to tell him, he doesn't understand. But that's how we're made. Like women, we are complicated. And we are, we're riveting. We are captivating. And it is the mystery of us that attracts our spouses, hopefully. And so there are things in my heart that I desire in my marriage. And I think that is really important as a woman to hold on to. Like, don't lose that. Don't lose hope. You know, and again, back to that size of the grain of a mustard seed. And you know what? Some days it's going to be more work than others, but don't lose it. Even if you have to write it down or, speak it into something where you can hear yourself speak those things, or just keep it in your heart and pray about it. Stay active, stay healthy, invite your spouse to do things together. I think when two people decide they're going to do things together, it just brings you closer. The prayer piece is important. We were talking a little bit about that. So just always remember, marriage is meant for two people to be together. Yeah. Try not to do too much separate, right? Try not to do, if you work separately, let that be it. Everything else, try really hard to do together. Even if you fall asleep on the couch and he goes to bed, like try to really make sure. Yeah, I mean, it's like those little...
I mean, that's me. That's for sure me.
Those little
listen, cracks. Like, I'm going to fall asleep. We can watch this show. You can watch the show, but in 5 minutes, I'm going to be asleep.
Exactly. Well, if you fall asleep and he finishes watching the movie, he's going to bring you up to bed, or you guys are going to sleep on the couch together, right? Like, so really focus on doing more things together. And I think that is what I would like to leave with. All of the marriages is to do things together. It's meant to be together, your marriage.
That's powerful. Yay. Well, thank you. This has been so fun. So fun. It's sort of like I'm just having a chat with a friend, and few people are watching us.
Yeah.
So if you have just joined this live stream, I definitely encourage you to catch it from the beginning, because this incredible woman, Kwanzaa King of Live Life on Purpose Today, has dropped some incredible nuggets, some incredibly valuable information in her 19 years of being married. She has so much to share with all of us. And so I'm so honored and grateful that you agreed and took the time to share your experiences and your insights with all of the folks that are watching us. So thank you so very much. And I encourage all of you to join me and another featured wife next Monday, same time, 9 p.m. right here on Facebook at the Be Relatable Facebook page. And we'll see you next week. Thanks so much, Kwanzaa.
Welcome. My pleasure. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.